What if the dead could rise to fight for their homeland? How is it that an unexplainable paranormal event coupled by a defiant president followed by the earnest words of an anonymous elderly lady are able to inspire an entire nation to stand against tyranny and reclaim their destiny? In the early days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, fear and uncertainty gripped the nation. As Russian jets darkened the skies and tanks rolled across borders, one question began to rise above the chaos. Who is the Ghost of Kyiv?
The story spread rapidly, a tale of a supernatural fighter pilot defending the capital. This mysterious figure seemed to appear out of nowhere, shooting down Russian planes with almost otherworldly precision. Ukrainian soldiers believed they were witnessing something far more than just a man in the cockpit.
But was the ghost real, or something far more terrifying? In the streets of Kyiv, civilians and soldiers alike whispered about the ghost. Some said it was the spirit of an old Soviet-era fighter pilot still defending his homeland. Others believed it was a guardian angel appearing in Ukraine's darkest hour.
What made the story more chilling was the inexplicable malfunctions that Russian planes began to experience. Pilots reported systems shutting down in mid-air, or their controls moving on their own, as if some spectral hand was guiding them to destruction.
As the legend of the ghost grew, so did the claims made by Russian propaganda. The Russian Orthodox Church, led by Patriarch Kirill, began accusing Ukraine of practicing satanic rituals. But the truth was far more sinister. It was not the Ukrainian church that practiced these dark arts, but the Russian Orthodox Church itself. Whispers began to circulate that high-ranking members of the Russian clergy had long been involved in secret occult rituals, using their influence to wage a spiritual war against Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian civilians showed their own form of defiance. Russian soldiers began looting villages. Their greed became a grotesque comedy. Reports flooded in of invaders stealing the most absurd things: porcelain toilet bowls, washing machines, and even bicycles. Social media exploded with memes of Russian soldiers fleeing with their arms full of mundane appliances, as though these stolen goods could somehow compensate for their crushing defeats on the battlefield.
One Ukrainian soldier quipped, "They can take the toilet bowls, but they'll never take our freedom."
Russia's reputation as the second-best army in the world has taken a humiliating nosedive. Once boasted as a superpower, it has now been relegated to a laughingstock. Second-best army in Ukraine. What was supposed to be a quick conquest turned into a grueling 3-year struggle. In fact, with Ukraine's recent incursions into Russia, the Russian army has now become the second-best army in Russia.
Who knew that a country known for its military might would find itself struggling against a resilient nation with a singular focus on survival and freedom? Russian soldiers, who once marched with pride, now trudge back home like shamed puppies, scrambling to avoid the jokes about their incompetence. After all, what better way to boost morale than to turn an entire army into a comedy routine?
Ukrainian culture began to flourish as a form of resistance.
Artists, musicians, and writers emerged as symbols of resilience, sharing their work globally and capturing the hearts of many.
Traditional Ukrainian songs became anthems of hope, while art depicting the struggles of the nation gained international prominence.
The world watched as Ukraine's cultural identity thrived amid war, revealing a nation determined to preserve its soul against all odds.
Amid the chaos, President Zelensky became the embodiment of Ukraine's defiant spirit. While others might have fled to safety, Zelensky made a decision that would rally his nation. When offered an evacuation by foreign allies, he famously replied, "I need ammunition, not a ride." Instead of hiding, Zelensky walked the streets of Kyiv with his officials, posting videos on social media, letting his people know that he was there, standing with them. His courage became a beacon of hope for Ukrainians and a rallying cry for resistance. "Slava Ukraini," he would declare, to which the people responded, "Heroyam Slava! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes!" As Russian forces continued to push toward key landmarks like Hostomel Airport, the legend of the Ghost of Kyiv grew. Ukrainian civilians, armed with little more than Molotov cocktails and their sheer will to survive, stood shoulder to shoulder with soldiers defending their homes. From the forests of Donbass to the streets of Mariupol, Ukraine's bravery in the face of overwhelming odds became a global symbol of resistance. Civilians carried on, making makeshift barricades.
Their defiance, summed up in the words of an elderly Ukrainian woman who approached Russian soldiers with sunflower seeds. "Take these seeds," she said, "so when you die, beautiful sunflowers will grow from your bodies."
The words of an old unknown Ukrainian lady who gave sunflower seeds to Russian soldiers have grown into a viral rallying cry. It's amazing how such simple, honest, and humble words can resonate so deeply, turning her into an unexpected icon of resistance, a cultural phenomenon. The climax of the Ghost of Kyiv story came during an intense dogfight over Kyiv. Russian jets converged on what they believed to be a single Ukrainian fighter. It was a moment of cinematic tension, a perfect setup for an ambush, but the Ghost was no ordinary opponent. As the Russian pilots closed in, the Ukrainian jet suddenly shot upward, performing a maneuver that should have been impossible according to the laws of physics. The Ghost twisted through the sky, dodging missiles with ease, striking down Russian jets one by one in a dazzling aerial display. The Russian jets fell from the sky, crashing into the earth as the Ghost of Kyiv disappeared into the clouds. Back on the ground, Ukrainian radar operators stared at their screens in disbelief. The Ghost's jet had disappeared entirely from their radar systems moments before the Russian planes went down.
Some believed it was divine intervention. Others thought it was the spirit of Ukraine itself, rising to protect its people.
Social media lit up with discussions from analysts like Jake Bro, Ukraine Matters, and Denise Davidoff, dissecting every second of the footage. But the answer seemed clear. Something unexplainable was happening. If you stand with Ukraine, share this story and please subscribe. Let the world know that even in the darkest of times, the spirits of heroes rise to defend their homeland. Despite the victories, the war was far from over. Russian forces were relentless, and the conflict continued to devastate cities like Mariupol and Kharkiv. But the Ukrainian people did not falter. Volunteers poured into the military, and civilians continued to fight in any way they could. The spirit of resistance was embodied in every person, from the soldiers on the front lines to the grandmothers making camouflage nets for snipers.
Slava Ukraini echoed through the streets as Ukrainians stood ready to defend every inch of their homeland.
As the Ghost of Kyiv's legend grew, so did the mystery surrounding his identity. Who was he? Was he a man, a ghost, or something in between?